First, can I have you say and spell first and last name and title?
Sure. Lauren, do you want me just to do like candidate for mayor or like you
Yeah,
want? Okay,
candidate for
yeah.
mayor. Yeah.
Lauren McClean, Lauren. McLean is big M, little c, big L, EAN.
All right.
And I am a candidate for mayor.
Candidate for mayor. So Lauren, just look at me during
Okay.
this. Pretend the camera's not even here. I'll occasionally glance over to make sure you're still in frame and whatnot. But first question for you is, what made you decide to run for mayor?
Well, there are quite a few reasons why I decided to run for mayor, and there's two I'll touch on. Let me start over. Sorry.
Mhm.
Um, okay. So you're gonna just like there's no time limit. Like you're just gonna do this, and I'm not gonna talk to you forever, but okay. I decided to run for mayor because, like so many people, everybody in this valley, I love this place deeply. In fact, right out of college, I married my high school sweetheart, and Scott and I decided to come take a risk and take a visit to Boise when we were looking for a place to build our family. And I'll never forget that day when we were descending into the Boise Valley and looking out and seeing the foothills that just looked so beautiful, and seeing the city as we landed, and then throwing on my running shoes and running from the river through the little downtown at that point and into the foothills. And I felt a connection to this place that I'd never felt before in my life. I didn't want to leave, but had to go home and wrap up work and then move here 3 months later. And every day since I've gotten here, my husband and I have fallen more deeply in love with this place and her people. And like everybody has a story like that, whether we've been here forever or we're lucky enough to find it, or left and realized that we needed to come back. And when you love a place that much and you know that something's needed, you step in to take care of it. And this spring, when I was hearing people talk about their concerns around whether or not they could stay in their homes because of the rising cost of living, kids that grew up here want to come back and raise their families near their parents, can't live in the neighborhoods they grew up in because of the housing costs. And they're feeling shut out of the process and really not sure how to impact our future. And then knowing that we're 20 years behind on transportation. And so as someone who loves this place and the deep connection that we all have to the people in our neighborhood and to the place that we've chosen to live, I decided it was time to jump in, offer new solutions, engage people in new ways, and help move our city forward.
You touched on a few of the issues there, but to you, what are the biggest issues facing Boise? Why do you say those are the issues? And what are some possible solutions that you would have as mayor?
Right now, the issue at hand for this election is, of course, the growth that we're experiencing. And what that relates to is our rising cost of living, the lack of adequate housing for everybody to live in, and then the fact that we're 20 years behind on transportation, and traffic and congestion is getting worse. And so while we have to recognize that we will continue to grow, there are ways that we can engage people in the process of planning and actually like roll up our sleeves, set aside old grudges, and build relationships in this valley and a vision around transportation. So some of the solutions, I think, are on transportation. For too long, leaders have fought. We've seen more and more articles in the paper about that very issue and the fact that we're 20 years behind on public transportation systems, and we're way behind on housing too. And so what we've got to do is actually commit to rebuilding relationships. And when you do that and you build consensus throughout this region, recognizing that these are regional problems and there are regional solutions, we can build the relationships and a vision around moving people from their homes to their work and then back and everywhere in between. And then we go and we hope to partner with the state to solve that problem. So in my first term, I would commit to have an actual plan for regional transportation by the end of my first 4 years. On housing, as I said, we're 10,000 units short, and people are asking for housing at all price points, and so for some protections too for renters as rent is skyrocketing. And one of the first things I do the day after I win the election is actually establish a task force that'll look at everything, that'll stop saying we can't do things, instead ask why not, and then create a list of solutions that we could propose, and then test whether or not we can because we have to for our residents. And then I'd say also on that, another overarching issue when we're thinking about growth is that the world is changing. And tonight, as you know, we have a forum on conservation and the environment. To grow our economy, to ensure that everyone has access to well-paying jobs of the future, we need to put conservation and clean energy at the center, and through that, providing equitable access to our clean air, clean water, and clean energy at the end of the day will help create new jobs and help our economy thrive.
election. Now, a big, topic in this election is the growth. Do you believe that the growth, the recent growth that Boise has seen, has that been good for Boise, or has that, harmed it? Has that hurt it? And why or why not?
Well, there's no question that we've come far in 16 years. That's a long time, but we've come far. What's important now is that people have been saying we haven't kept pace with the growth. Leadership hasn't planned appropriately for the growth. And so we know it's coming. We need to re-engage people in the process of planning and then get serious about setting egos and old grudges at the door to build the relationships and agreement necessary to solve these problems.
And for you, what would you want Boise to look like in 20 years, and how would you work towards that?
That's such a great question because that's why I'm in this work. I see Boise 20 years from now, my kids will be in their 30s, and we will be a city that is connected to the region more holistically than we are right now, with an economy that's filled with new energy and new economy jobs so that people have opportunity to live, work, and raise a family here. And because we would have had an actual plan for transit in my first 4 years, we'll actually see transit on the ground moving people from work to home. And we'll have protected our open spaces, created new pathways for people that connect farmland to foothills, and grown more dense, but at the same time cooperated more closely with the region. And just like other places where we've seen the impact of regional cooperation and economic development, our schools will be thriving and people have so much more opportunity, and it'll be easier to get around because there'll be new ways to do that.
And what new ideas would you bring to the position? I know when you first announced, there was some chatter I saw on social media. It's like, well, if she's elected, it'd probably just be more of the same. What new ideas would you bring?
I will bring a new commitment to renewing relationships that have gone so sour across this valley. I will lean in on clean energy and environmental policy because at the end of the day, it's about people and prosperity. And so when you have a leader who's deeply committed to the connection of people and place and recognizes that long-term economic success is tied to innovative ideas, and she's in the office setting the agenda, you will see new ways of working, new ideas around housing and transportation and equity and conservation at the center of it all.
All right, those are the questions. Now I just have to do one more thing, but not in the.
I see. So it's like you talking, you interviewing me. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then, so we usually don't even use any audio from this. We just to show that I'm.
So that you were there.
Yeah. One of the things we do. Well, I guess real quickly, and I probably wouldn't use this, but that way it looks more natural.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the mayor's race? What do you think of the city council race as well? I mean, there's 8 people vying for seat 1. So what do you think of, the amount of names?
So I think that anytime you have many people engaged in an election, that's a really good thing. So it'll be hard in that race of 8 to break out of that field, but it shows that people right now feel like there's a need to have a conversation and to dig in and be part of the future, which I think is incredible.
All right, that should do it.
Yeah, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.